Hi, I'm Stefan from Slim's Detailing. Welcome to our supplier showcase. Today we're here with our friends Gtechniq.
Hi, I'm Rob from Gtechniq, and today we're going to go through the main product line, so our ceramic coatings, explain to you the benefits of using them and how best to apply them.
So Rob, Crystal Serum Light.
So Crystal Serum Light, this is a very new technology. It is got better resistance to scratching than our previous products. Extremely nice to apply. I think most people, when they use it, they're blown away by how easy it is, and that forms a permanent bond with your paintwork and giving it fantastic scratch resistance.
Okay, and then we can use EXO for...
Absolutely. So the Crystal Serum Light, this is the base. This is what's protecting the gloss because it's giving the scratch resistance. It gives reasonable hydrophobic performance, but people love hydrophobic performance. And EXO V4, when working with Crystal Serum Light, you get the really good durability from your hydrophobic coating. You're getting, the Crystal Serum Light on its own is it's there forever. EXO on top of Crystal Serum Light, you get about 2 years durability out of that.
Okay, Rob, so we've got our test car here.
Yep.
So preparation side beforehand is we've washed it, decontaminated, clay barred, machine polished.
Yep.
So we're now at a stage ready now to start looking at applying the coatings.
Yep.
So if we look at Crystal Serum Light first.
Okay.
So if we can just go through the step-by-step guide on the application.
Yeah,
side.
sure. Okay. So first thing really critical is, these are covalent chemically bonding coatings. So really important that you get the maximum amount of chemical bonds between the coating and the surface of your vehicle. To do that, our panel wipe is designed for that. Just a little bit on panel wipe. This is not an isopropyl alcohol. An isopropyl alcohol based only panel prep product actually doesn't do very much because it doesn't dissolve the polish residues. You need to dissolve the hydrocarbon residues of the polish. Our panel wipe does that. And a lot of the times, a lot of people using isopropyl alcohol based panel preps, they're not really doing what you need it to do, and that is to get rid of all the polish residues so you've got a completely clinically clean surface to apply the product on.
Okay.
So yeah, that'd be the first step to do that.
Okay, so in regards to the panel wipe, is it onto the microfiber?
I'd put it, microfiber, best on the microfiber, and critical also, ensure you're putting it onto relatively cool panels. Like don't, kind of be doing your final stage, have a really hot panel from when you're polishing. Make sure it's back to room temperature, spray it onto the microfiber, and then away you go.
Okay. Is that enough?
Yeah, that should be right. Yeah, that's fine. And always when you're working, I think most people know about having a myriad of different lights. So you have the spotlights, obviously, to spot the swirls.
Yep.
But now when you're at this stage, when you're trying to see residues on the surface, flat lights are the way to go. Very, very important to have those.
Okay, do you want to do that side for me, Rob? Thank you.
I'll have to use my products. Okay, so that's now ready to coat.
So if we go on to Crystal Serum Light then.
Yep.
So inside the package.
Yeah, you've got some gloves. So best not to get the product onto your hands. It's the product itself will not. It's the solvents in the product that'll just dry your skin out. So
okay.
That's what they're.
I've noticed there's a pipette in there as well.
Yeah. Let me get the bottle ready for you. So you have the bottle of product, like so, and you've got a pipette, and then I'll give you the pad. So that's the applicator pad. So with the bottle, get rid of that, and then you've got a pipette. So when you first on the first time you use it, you want to load the pad up, and we recommend three kind of servings, if you were. So get the product kind of all over the pad.
Yep. And this is just initially to prime the pad.
Yeah. Okay. And then what I would normally do then is, if you just get the pad and just go like that, so you get the coating throughout the pad.
Fold it over?
Fold it over and just give it a bit of a...
Bit of a rub
exactly,
around.
that's it.
Okay.
Just to get an even...
Oh, I can see it's evened it out now.
Correct.
Okay, so the application side,
Yep.
obviously with coatings, it's best to set the bottle aside.
Yes.
Not to hold it in your hand to
absolutely.
get it, to get it
warm. Because if you keep it in your hand, the heat from your hand will make the product start. By the time you get to the end of the car, a lot of the solvents could have flashed off. It becomes quite sticky to apply. Okay. So now you're ready to apply. We recommend doing a 2 foot by 2 foot area, and you can use cross hatch kind of process, so up and down. It's just really so that you get the product, complete coverage of the surface. That's all you're looking to do. Okay,
and then we're just going to fill in that sort of that area there.
Yeah, and again, very important, always move your head around so that you can see where the coating's gone on.
Yeah.
Not so critical on this stage, but when we're removing the residue. And then with the product itself, we've made it so, this is putting down the hardness into the paint, and this is a little different to C1 in that the reaction is more with the paint, and that you get the hardness when it reacts with the paint, whereas C1, a lot of it, if you leave C1 to air cure, you'll get hard crystals. With Crystal Serum Light, you don't. And it is, the chemistry is very different. This is a silane based product, whereas C1 is a much simpler product. So this one, actually, the hardness is now starting to happen when it starts reacting with them.
Okay, and what sort of time do we have before this?
Crystal Serum Light is fairly forgiving. You've probably got 2 or 3 minutes, but there's no particular advantage of leaving it longer. So that reaction now, that's 3 of the 4 stages of the reaction, that 3 of them have pretty much happened already. So there's hydrolysis. It's using humidity in the air to start with the covalent bond and to bond with the hydroxyl groups of the paint, and most of that has already happened. But then the full bonding, it takes about you can get the coating wet after 12 hours, but you need to leave it for about a week afterwards before using any surfactants, any soaps on it, because that final stage that is quite a long process.
Okay, so in regards to buffing off,
yes.
So two different
microfibers, and again, you're not pushing hard. You're just removing. It's like almost like you're trying to get milk off a surface. So you don't want to be buffing too hard. And then it's really, again, just get your head.
Look at different
angles to make sure. And again, you need to have a good flat light. So these strip lights here and the squares, you can actually see any residue. And we recommend having 2 cloths. So one for an initial cloth, for the initial buff,
removal.
and then the final one, and always buff much further away.
So over-exaggerate the buffing on the final piece.
Correct. And with Crystal Serum Light, as opposed to Ultra, Crystal Serum Light we developed it to a point where if you did leave some high spots, you can still polish them off. Whereas Crystal Serum Ultra, even 2000 grit paper won't remove them. You've got to go to 1200 grit paper to remove the high spots. With Crystal Serum Light and with C1, if you leave high spots, you can still buff those high spots off with a cutting compound and a hard pad.
Okay.
So that's it. That's done, and then you repeat that all the way around the car.
Okay. I noticed it's fairly straightforward.
Yes.
There's a lot of scaremongering, online.
Absolutely.
With
I think the critical thing here, there are good instructions. Obviously follow these instructions, but there are very, very good instructions on the box, on your listing on the website. As long as you follow those and you're patient, don't try and hurry it. It's just a process. It's follow one step comes after the other, and then the job is.
I think it's really important that this isn't a quick solution. It's not a quick application side.
Yeah.
But as long as you're thorough and you repeat the steps methodically, you're going to get a great result.
Absolutely.
So with Crystal Serum Light, how long is this likely to last on the vehicle?
That has now become part of the paint. That is always going to be on the paint.
Okay.
So really, that kind of question, and that's a really annoying answer that I give, but it's more of a function of how fussy you are about the surface of your car and how well you look after your car. It's a function of that.
Okay.
So the product itself will always be there, and its purpose is to add resistance to damage from when you wash the car, from swirl marks, etc. and as I said, I think on the intro, this is a 7H coating. It's adding probably 3H. So if you've got, let's say, 2H paint, it's now going to probably be to around about 5H. So that's the level of, that's the kind of difference that it makes.
So the benefit from putting Crystal Serum Light on the car?
Yes.
Swirl resistant.
Correct.
So bird droppings, it's very good for that.
Yeah, bird droppings, I can do a whole spiel. Bird droppings are one of the, as everybody will know, one of the most damaging things that affect paintwork. And it's the heat cycles from the paint. So imagine if this is your bird dropping that lands on the surface of your car here.
Yeah.
If it's on, and generally you see these problems they start in springtime. So the sun will be hitting the panel and it will heat up the paint, obviously all the way around there. And the difference between the heat of the paint here and underneath the bird dropping will be dramatic. It could be 30, 40 degrees difference. And paint, when it heats up, it swells. And then when it cools, it contracts. So it's almost like this, these heat cycles. It's a mechanical action of the bird dropping going into the surface of the car. Obviously, birds they don't pee, so all the uric acid is in there.
Yeah.
So it is strongly acidic. So what we found is with the coatings, they will help to protect. What they will do is they will protect clear coat. So we've never seen an instance of clear coat failure, whereas without coatings, that can happen.
Yeah. Obviously, bird droppings on the car, best thing,
Yes, just remove them. Yeah.
ASAP,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah.
Okay, great. I'll do the application on the rest of the bonnet now then.
Okay.
So now the pad's primed.
Yeah, you only need probably one go on the pipette, and yeah, as we said, just don't put the bottle in your hand.
So, and we're going to overlap slightly.
Yes, overlap slightly,
just to make sure that we've got all the area covered.
Yeah, but that's one of the things that people find when they, I think there is a lot of people kind of think, these types of coatings are there's a fearfulness about them, but actually once you start using them, as long as you follow the instructions, it's pretty straightforward.
It feels quite slick as well. So once I've...
Yeah, no, you can feel, I hate it when customers, they kind of go, oh, that feels very slick. And don't touch that. But yeah, it does add a lot of slickness to the surface. Yeah. But no, that was, when we developed the product, we developed products with 3 factors involved. It's performance, ease of application, and price. So the ease of application piece is, that's a critical piece for it. That looks fine. So yeah, you must be getting your head all over the place, making sure there's no smearing, but that looks absolutely fine. Okay, so yeah, we're good to go.
Okay, perfect. And then it's just repeating them processes all the way around.
Yeah.
Okay, and then 12 hours cure time recommended?
Yeah, so we recommend so if you're putting EXO, it's not necessary to put EXO above it on top of CSL, but if you want to have that hydrophobic performance, then the EXO is going to give you 2 years of that. C2V3, you're going to get 6 months. So if you're doing CSL with EXO, I'd recommend you leave at least an hour and a half between finishing CSL and putting EXO on, which normally, by the time you get back to where you started, you're probably an hour and a half.
I think it's important to mention as well, so with regards to the beading effect that you're going to get with EXO, and I know Crystal Serum Light, you'll get that initial beading effect as well. Even when the beading sort of isn't as strong as before, that it is important to mention that the product is still on there.
Correct. And a lot of the time, that beading effect, that will be diminished because there is surface contamination. So quite often, if a car has been left, you haven't washed it maybe for 2 or 3 months, and you wash it with a normal shampoo, and you'll suddenly find that the top surfaces, maybe the beading will have not looking quite as good as it was, whereas the sides will be all right, but that'll be just a function of contamination that's still on the surface that the shampoo hasn't removed. So if you use our W5 citrus degreaser, that will remove most of it, and also W6. And when you do that, suddenly you'll find the beading comes back to as it was when you first applied it. Yeah.
Okay, brilliant, thank you. Okay, Rob, so we've got EXO V4 here.
Okay.
The party piece?
Yes, this is the bit that, this is what people love seeing, is the water beading off the surface. That exactly, party piece.
So we've applied Crystal Serum Light over the bonnet. How long is it before we can apply EXO?
We recommend at least an hour and a half. You can apply it, you can leave it longer, it doesn't matter. But yeah, apply one after the other, because then you don't have to decontaminate the car. So yeah, apply one after the other. So yeah, an hour and a half. Okay,
and the process for applying this?
It's very, very similar. So spread it. You don't get a pipette with that, but load the pad. You have slightly longer working time with EXO. The version 3 flashed off a lot quicker than version 4. We adjusted it, and in fact, just that little adjustment with the slowing down of the flash off time has actually made it, because it gives it longer for that reaction to happen, for the hydrophobic element to set, for better way of putting it. So that's what's actually given it a lot better durability as well.
Okay, so the longevity on this product?
Yeah, it's a very good question. One of the things to note is that EXO V4 you can use as a standalone, and it works fine. But it is very, very dependent, and we did a lot of work. A lot of people know Kelly, KDS Caltech. He's one of the first detailers we had an accreditation with. He's actually done quite a lot of work in kind of demonstrating the differences of clear coats. So you have different solids in clear coats. So high solid clear coats, you're going to get a much better performance of EXO V4 than a low solid clear coat. Most manufacturers, this car is no different. They won't use the most expensive clear coats. It is expensive, and it's an expensive process. So EXO on its own, it's going to be very dependent on the quality of the clear coat.
Okay.
So on a regular clear coat, you get maybe a year. But the difference now is once you've got Crystal Serum Light on, you've made a much denser surface.
Yeah.
So the EXO is going to work a lot better. So you will get, we claim 2 years on there. You will get 2 years, maybe even longer, when it's put on a base of a C1, a Crystal Serum Light, or Crystal Serum Ultra. In terms of that, is a much better area. You get a much better coating on there because it's got a much denser surface to adhere to.
Okay, so application side, it's the same as
so just prime the pad.
The others. So in regards to priming the pad, obviously we haven't got a pipette on this one.
Yeah.
Is it just tell me when to?
Yeah, keep going. That'll about do you.
And then same again
same,
with
just
the fold over.
Yeah.
Nice little technique.
So that's just getting a consistent amount of product.
Yeah,
within
you can tell straight away that you haven't got them individual dots.
Correct.
Okay. So 2 foot by 2 foot.
Yeah, 2 foot by 2 foot. You could probably do further. And again, these products, they're all they're curing with humidity and temperature. So the higher the temperature and the higher the humidity, the faster it works. So that 2 foot by 2 foot. Here it is relatively cool, and it is quite humid. As you can hear, it's raining a lot. But you could probably do larger areas. But if you're in somewhere like Florida, where it's very warm and very humid, you're going to have relatively smaller areas. And it's just, you will find, as you get used to using the products, you will find when you buff them, if you've gone too big an area, it starts becoming a little sticky to remove it. But 2 foot by 2 foot is going to be, you're going to be safe with that in most conditions. And application temperatures. We recommend between 5 and 25 Celsius.
Okay. I've got to admit, going over the top of the CSL, it feels so slick.
It's good.
It feels lovely.
Yeah.
So in regards to the buffing off, how long do we have before this really?
You've probably got up to about 5 minutes, but again, just
temperature dependent.
Temperature dependent. But again, there's a lot of people think, if you leave it longer, you're going to get a better cured coating. Not really, and we've done testing with that. In fact, we found the opposite with a product with Halo, for example. People were thinking if you left it on the surface for longer, you'd have a better cured film. In fact, what we recommend is what works best.
Okay. Seen on a lot of online that you'll have people using infrared heat lamps. Is there any benefit from that?
There is. It doesn't result in a better cured film, but it's going to accelerate the curing. So, for example, you know, we recommend this car should now stay dry for at least 12 hours after you've done the application. You can probably cut that in half with IR, but again, it's not essential. It's not going to give you any better results in the long term than applying it inside.
Okay.
Critical thing is obviously keeping the surface dry for 12 hours afterwards, and don't wash the vehicle for at least 1 week afterwards.
Okay.
And yeah, with EXO, best results is to do 2 coats.
2 coats?
Yeah.
Okay.
You can do more, but it's, you know, it's a law of diminishing return. You know, with 2 coats, it's just, you know, you ensure you're going to get a really good coverage over every single surface.
Right, so again, 2 microfibers, one for taking the main bit off, and then over exaggerate on the second one again.
Correct. And then making sure that you get your head at kind of loads of different angles, catching the light.
Yeah, I've noticed that you can miss a few little smear marks that you think you've got it, and then you stand back and look from different areas, and then you realise there's still a little bit on there. Yeah,
and then obviously down the side of the car, it's critical. You know, we have kind of long vehicle inspection lights. They're quite good for that, and sometimes you can actually put a bit of diffusing paper over those LEDs, and they work even better.
Perfect. That's great.
So that's it. Yeah. So that's the first coat. So 2 coats, and you're done.
I'll crack on and do the rest of it then.
Okay.
Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe and hit the bell. See you next time.